Hi, it's Randy at TilanoFresco.com, and today I'm actually going to take you into one of my clients' homes here in Vancouver, where I actually did their mantle in a lime plaster as well as their backsplash in lime plaster. But the coolest part is we're actually going to do a video live to tape on how to make a silhouette fresco in Sarah's house here. So let's go in and take a look.
Randy, come on in.
Hey Sarah, thanks for having me over. Yeah, it's good to see you. Go. So yes, now we're live in Sarah's house. This is Sarah.
Hi.
And we are basically going to make a silhouette fresco live to tape. And the whole idea of this exercise of making a video like this is I'm actually going to coach Sarah along and make a tile side by side with her so that she can see the nuances of what it's like to go ahead and make a true fresco. So here we go.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I received my Tilano Fresco kit today. I'm going to make some tiles. The first thing I need to do is open up the box, go through the inventory list, and make sure everything is there.
Okay, so the first step you need to do is get your coat of lime plaster onto the surface of the tile. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to use our lime plaster.
Which paintbrush would we use for that?
Actually, not going to use a brush. That's a good question. You can use your 1-inch trowel to scoop out some of the plaster. So I'll just scoop out, I think is probably just enough. You don't need much because you just want to put a skim coat right over the surface.
Do you have a second trowel that you could use while we're doing this? And do it together?
Yeah.
Because I'm not really sure what I'm doing here.
Well, you're doing all right. I've got this trowel here, so this will work. Okay. So the next thing to do is take the crackle sealer. And with the crackle sealer, what you want to do is pour a little dab on top. I'm going to use my trowel just to act as a guide. I probably poured on a little bit too much there. We'll pour a little bit on yours. You want to do it?
Yeah.
Okay. So then use that.
Like that?
And mix it up. Exactly. You want basically about a quarter size. If you can mix that in. And the idea is you want to spread it around on top of the tile and get a nice white coat.
I don't think I have enough to cover the whole tile. Should I add more?
No, I think you're good. I mean, I'll basically give you a little bit here of mine if you need any extra, but it's just a thin coating you want to have. And it's very transparent when it's wet, but when it dries, it'll go frosty white.
And all the way to the edges, I'm presuming, right?
Yes, for this case, I want to run it right to the edges. But after you've done a few, the neat part is you can actually do, whatever you want. You can actually leave a part showing of the wood, give it a distressed appearance. Or in this case, we just want to make sure we have a nice even coat because we want to make sure the stencil is going to adhere to this whole surface. I'll let you use a 3-inch trowel. You can see, like the 1-inch trowel, you get all the lines.
Yeah.
The 3-inch trowel will help you out with all that.
There we go. Perfect. Does it matter if it goes over the edge a little bit?
Nope, that's fine. Whatever you make, it's good. I mean, you just want to get a nice coating, just like you can see there. It's pretty smooth on the top. There's a little bit of a bubble here or a trowel mark, but that's okay. I'm not going to worry about that.
How's that?
That's perfect. Perfect.
There you go.
So that's what Sarah's looks like. You can see some of the lines. Some's dripping over the edge, but that's okay. We can just wipe that off. So that's your first step done. Now we want to let that dry. You can either let that dry overnight, which is usually what I like to do, is do this the night before and wake up the next day, you have a nice dry surface, or you can put it in your oven for 150 degrees for about 20 minutes and let it air dry after you pull it out of the oven. So let it cool down.
Okay, well why don't we put it in the oven so we can speed up the process?
Sure. 1, go.
There we go. I set the oven to what, 150, right?
Yeah, 150 is perfect.
Great.
Now we're going to prep our stencil, and the first thing we need to do is decide whether we want to have the white and black, and the meaning, do we want a positive or a negative? So in this case, I have a fleur-de-lis stencil here, and Sarah has the City of Light stencil. So in your case, you're going to pick out the letters.
Okay, so that'll make it so my letters are going to stick out or be recessed?
Your letters will stick out.
Okay.
Okay, so we call that a positive transfer. So in this case here, I'm going to do the same. I'm going to pull out the stencils for the diamond grid and the fleur-de-lis.
What about this sort of border that's around it? What do I do with that?
Just leave that for now, because sometimes you want that as a guide when you're putting it on the tile itself, which I'll show you.
Okay.
And one of the things I mentioned here is important to have is a good sharp knife. I use an X-Acto knife because it's handy, but you can also use a steak knife, or if you have super sharp nails, then you can actually use that to pull out your stencil.
Yes, I think I'm using my nails. I'm having better luck with the nails than the knife.
Yeah, well, ladies sometimes have more luck, I guess, than the guys. So there we go.
Oh, I can tell you've done this before.
Yes. But once you do a few, you get the hang of how the image releases from the vinyl.
Does it make a difference if you have like a simple stencil compared to a more complicated stencil?
Great question, and yes. I'm doing the one that's a bit more difficult than what you're doing. The sharper, the cleaner the lines, the easier it is to remove. The more detail and curves, the harder the degree. It's just a matter of being patient, and you'll get through it, that's all I can say from my experience.
Well, once you are able to lift up the corner, it seems to come off really easily.
Yes.
There you go, I'm done.
You're done?
That.
So that's yours there.
There you go.
Mine.
Yeah, I can see why yours is a bit more complicated.
Yeah, it's a little bit of the little curly cues or sometimes take a little bit of time.
It looks so pretty when it's done though.
Yeah, it's a nice, simple design, timeless, and speaks so much to the architecture and design of France / Paris, City of Light. So there you go. That's what the stencil looks like once you've weeded it all out.
And mine, there we go.
And that's Sarah's City of Light. So step 3 of stencil prep involves masking your stencil. And this is important because this is how you kind of make your stencil into a sticker, so that you can get it onto the tile. So what you want to do is you want to take your gray masking that you have in the kit, and you want to flip it over and pick a corner.
I guess it doesn't matter which corner, does it?
No.
Okay.
And you just want to score the edge of your corner.
Scoring means don't go all the way through, right?
Don't go all the way through, and especially when you want to cut your nice dining room table that you have here. So I basically run the blade over about 3 times softly and just pierce the paper. You can create your line.
Okay.
I'll show what this looks like here. You kind of create your line so that you can peel. And once you can peel,
yeah.
that worked?
Oh, so you want me to just peel the whole thing off?
Peel the whole thing off, and don't let the film touch the sticky sides together. So I've got one sticky side, one non-sticky side.
But my fingers can go onto it.
Your fingers can go onto it, that's fine.
Okay.
So we're obviously going to put the sticky side down on top of your stencil, and I'll just pick a corner at the top and make sure you get it square as possible. It's a bit oversized so that you have a little bit of room for error, but I'll basically line it up on the top and then just kind of let it fall onto the surface and use my hand to flatten it out.
Uh-oh.
What'd you get?
Is that good?
Yeah, it's perfect.
That's fine? Okay, perfect.
As long as you got it covering all the stencil parts,
Yep.
then you're okay. So you can sort of see what mine looks like here.
Here, should I show mine as well?
So this is what it looks like when you have something in the typography font. So the next thing you need to do is you got to burnish it with your trowel. So you take your trowel,
Right.
go from the center, push very firmly, and pull clockwise around from the center out. And you can do this a number of times. You'll see that air bubbles will seem to move a little bit. And if you have some that are in there, that's okay. You just don't want to have any the size of a quarter or the size of a silver dollar.
Now, will the air bubbles leave like a more of a texture on the final finish?
No.
Okay.
They have no effect to the finish, essentially.
How's this, Randy?
That looks great. Let's see. All right, so you can see very little air bubbles. A few little ones here, but that's not a big deal. So we're ready for the next step. Now we're going to apply our stencil onto the surface of our dried Fresco tile. So the neat part about the Fresco right now is it's bone dry. We took it out of the oven. It's sat around for 20 minutes, half an hour, and now it's basically room temperature, and you can hear it kind of has a sandy feel, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's nice.
And there isn't too many ridges or anything. If you have any serious ridges, you just want to give that a light sand and get rid of it. And the most important thing here is it's dust free.
That's great.
Because otherwise the
can't
stencil won't
You
stick.
can't see any of the lines that were originally on there, which is great.
Yeah, it kind of settled down as it dried,
Yeah.
which is nice. So, next thing you want to do is we want to adhere the stencil on top of the tile. So what I would do is I'll basically pick a corner and you want to peel the stencil off the backing.
Okay, I have a bit of a problem there. Is that normal?
You basically,
Gonna
if
have
any
to trowel
areas
that back
wants
on.
to stick, what you can do is you take your trowel and push it down.
Okay.
So burnishing always helps
Part
give
of-
adhesion to this top stencil.
Yeah, part of my Y came off. There we go. Let's see. Oh yeah, that works.
Yeah.
Oh,
So mine's a little bit more elaborate than Sarah's. So when you have a little bit more curl or imagery happening in the stencil, you have to be cautious the way you peel it. But it's just a matter of taking time. You don't want to rush it. And you can also use your fingers to apply pressure when you have an area that doesn't want to lift. I'm going to turn this towards the camera a little bit more so people can sort of see the effect. You can see that one's peeled off the edge here. And what I can do is I can push it back down with my finger into the sticky surface.
I found that mine came off pretty easily once I got started.
Yeah, it's just, every stencil is unique in its design, so you just have to pay attention to that. And that's what helps make a professional effect as opposed to an amateur effect.
There we go. I think I'm good here. Look, there we go.
There you go. So now you have your sticky side facing this way, right? And you want to get this down on top of the surface of the tile.
Right.
Now you want to make sure you're straight, right? That's the most important part. And generally what I do is you have a little bit of play here. It won't stick too much. You can still kind of slide it on the surface as you can see. And I'll always use my fingers to figure out where the corners are, the top corners. And I'll line up the imagery with the corners.
Okay, and my letters are designed to look like they're hanging off the tile.
Yeah, the City of Light stencil is designed with a lot of our typographies to bleed off the edge. So it's done purposely. So you're basically right on the edge right there, which is great. All the way around on the sides.
How's
For your
that?
very first time, you've done a great job.
Oh, great.
So you can sort of see how that sticks around on the sides.
There we go.
Okay, so next thing you do, take your trowel,
The larger one, right?
the 3-inch trowel, and go from the center out. Center out. And you can push really hard when you're doing this because you want to make sure the stencil is sticking to the surface of the plaster.
So you can't do it too hard.
Basically, yeah. You can't really do it too hard.
Okay.
So there we go. Now I'm going to peel the stencil off. And you're going
Right.
to take the corner of the masking that you had put down on top
Right.
and begin to remove it. And if any areas wants to peel off, you just push it back down.
Should I keep the border on as well?
I would take it off.
Okay.
You can always scrape off what you don't want in the end. So this part you can see came off. All I do is I push down with my finger and my thumb and it'll stick back down.
Oh yeah. Oh, this turned out really well.
Yeah, it's, like I said, the trickier the stencil in terms of design, the more you have to pay attention to when you're removing it. This one's going
You just
quite
kinda-
smoothly thus far.
Looks like you're just kind of like rolling it off.
Yeah, you just roll it off like you're peeling the sticker off the backing. So that's what the fleur-de-lis looks like once I've stuck it onto the tile. You can see it's very tight to the surface, and you just want to make sure you don't have any air bubbles anywhere because you don't want any plaster to bleed in underneath the stencil once you do the next step. So that's what your fleur-de-lis looks like.
Okay. I'm taking a little bit more time than you. There we go. Oops.
So you want to basically just try to keep the backing always pulling off as opposed to lying back down on the surface. So there you go.
How's that?
That's perfect.
Great.
So this part is just garbage. Just get rid of that underneath. And that's Sarah's City of Light,
There we go.
ready to go for the next step.
Yeah.